The slap landed before the laughter even died down. 43 people standing in my mother's living room in Naperville, Illinois, and every single one of them heard it. The Christmas tree lights kept blinking. Nat King Cole kept singing from the Bluetooth speaker in the corner. But the room just stopped. My name is Callie Marsh. I was 29 years old that Christmas Eve, and the handprint my sister Dana left on my cheek would be the last thing she ever took from me for free. But to understand that night, you have to understand the 10 years that built it. Our father, Raymond Marsh, died when I was 19. He left behind a modest life insurance policy, a 3-bedroom house in a quiet suburb, and 2 daughters who were nothing alike. Dana was the kind of woman who moved through rooms like she owned them. Loud, beautiful, magnetic in the way that made people forgive her before she even finished doing the thing that needed forgiving. I was the other kind. The kind who shows up early and stays late. The kind who learned QuickBooks at 21 so my mother wouldn't lose the house when the mortgage company started sending letters with red ink on the envelopes. For 10 years I was the one who filed the taxes, who drove my mother, Patricia, to her cardiology appointments and sat in the waiting room with a notepad, writing down everything the doctor said because she couldn't retain it when she was nervous. Who quietly, methodically, kept the Marsh family from sliding off the edge it had been balancing on since the day we buried my father. Dana contributed a Venmo request every November asking for her half of the holiday decorating budget, which I paid, and her physical presence at Thanksgiving, which I was supposed to be grateful for. This arrangement had a name in our house. It was called family. The Christmas Eve party was my mother's idea. 50 people, catered appetizers, a bartender she'd hired through an app. Dana had flown in from Phoenix 2 days earlier with a boyfriend nobody had met and opinions about everything. I had spent 4 days cleaning, organizing, confirming vendors, and that evening I was moving through the kitchen with a tray of stuffed mushrooms when Dana's boyfriend stepped backward off the kitchen step and collided directly into me. The tray went up. The mushrooms went everywhere. And one of them, one single stuffed mushroom, landed on the sleeve of Dana's cream blazer. What happened in the next 4 seconds I will describe precisely because precision is the only honest way to tell it. Dana turned. She looked at her sleeve. She looked at me. And then she swung her right hand, open-palmed across my left cheek so hard that my vision went white at the edges. No warning. No words. Just the slap, and then the silence, and then her voice cutting through it, asking me what was wrong with me. I looked at my mother. Patricia Marsh was standing 6 feet away holding a glass of Chardonnay. She had seen everything. Her eyes moved from Dana's sleeve to my face to the guests who were watching, and then she set her glass down on the counter, walked to me quietly, and told me I needed to go apologize to the people I had disturbed and then take the rest of the night off. Take the rest of the night off. Like I was a caterer. Like I was staff. Like the woman whose handprint was still burning on my face was not her daughter, and I was not also her daughter, and none of this required any further comment from her. I picked up my coat from the bedroom. I didn't say goodbye. I walked out the front door into an Illinois December that was so cold the air hurt to breathe, and I sat in my car in the driveway for 90 seconds before I drove away. Here is what they did not know about me. What nobody in that house had ever thought to ask about, because people who handle everything are rarely asked how they learned to handle it. For 3 years, I had worked as a paralegal at Greer & Associates, a mid-sized firm in downtown Chicago that specialized in estate litigation. I had spent those 3 years watching families dissolve over money that had been mismanaged, misdirected, or quietly stolen by the people trusted to protect it. I had learned, in precise and professional detail, exactly what documentation looked like when it was airtight. Exactly what a fiduciary violation looked like on paper. And exactly what happened when one was reported to the right people in the right format. I had also, for the past 8 months, been quietly looking at my father's estate. It had started accidentally. My mother had asked me to find an old insurance document in the filing cabinet in the basement, and what I had found instead was a letter from a financial advisory firm I had never heard of, addressed to Patricia Marsh, dated 4 months after my father's funeral, confirming the rollover of a $310,000 annuity into a joint investment account. Joint. Not sole. I had never been told this money existed. I drove to a Denny's 20 minutes from the house. I ordered coffee and sat in a booth by the window, and I opened the folder I had been building on my laptop since August. 8 months of bank statements obtained through a records request I had filed quietly through the firm's document retrieval system. 8 months of cross-referencing deposit dates, withdrawal amounts, and account transfers. The picture was not complicated once you had all the pieces in front of you. My mother had not spent the annuity. She had split it. $180,000 had gone to Dana over a period of 6 years in amounts small enough to avoid gift tax reporting thresholds. Transfers labeled personal loan. Loans that had never generated a single repayment. The remaining $130,000 was still sitting in the account. An account that was technically a joint marital asset, which meant it was also technically part of my father's estate, which meant it had never been properly probated, which meant that what had happened to it was not a family decision. It was a legal matter. I had a contact at the Illinois Attorney General's Estates Division. Her name was Renata. I had processed 3 referrals through her office in the past 2 years. I emailed her at 11:48 p.m. on Christmas Eve with a subject line that said, Marsh Estate, potential probate violation, documentation attached. Then I closed my laptop, finished my coffee, and drove to my apartment. They called before sunrise. Dana first, then my mother, then Dana again from a different number. I watched the screen light up on my nightstand and I let every call go to voicemail. At 6:15 a.m., I made myself eggs and read the messages, which ranged from Dana demanding I explain what I had done to my mother, asking me, in a voice that had finally lost its social composure, why I was trying to destroy this family. I thought about that word. Destroy. As though what I had done was damage something that had previously been whole. I drove to my mother's house at 8 a.m. Not because anyone had asked me to. Because I wanted to be there when the process began, not to watch it happen to them but to understand for myself, completely and finally, that I had made the right choice. 2 white government-issue SUVs were already idling in the driveway when I turned onto the street. Illinois Attorney General's office moves quickly when the documentation is clean and the referral comes from a credible source. I sat at the corner and watched through my windshield. My mother came out first. She was wearing her Goodwill coat, the one she wore to church, and she was carrying her pocketbook and a look on her face I had never seen before. Not anger. Not the composed social expression she maintained for guests. Something stripped of all its performance. Something that looked, finally, like consequence. Dana came out behind her. No blazer this time. She stood on the porch with her arms crossed against the cold, and she looked down the street, and when her eyes found my car, she held my gaze for a long moment. I did not look away. I did not wave. I simply looked back at her the way you look at something you have finally finished carrying. The legal process took 4 months. The annuity account was frozen pending full probate review. Dana was required to appear before the estate court and account for every transfer she had received, and the characterization of those transfers as loans meant they were now legally recoverable debts against her share of the estate. My father had not been a wealthy man, but he had been a careful one, and what he had left behind had been meant for both of his daughters equally. I received my share, every dollar of it, with interest, as the court calculated it. My mother called me once after the settlement. She did not apologize. She said she hoped I understood that she had only done what she thought was best for the family, and that she hoped one day I would find it in my heart to see it that way too. I told her I understood exactly what she had done and exactly why she had done it. And I told her I hoped she and Dana had a comfortable arrangement in place because I would not be available to manage the next crisis. She waited for me to say something else. I didn't. I hung up. My life now is mine in a way it never was before. I still work in law. I was offered a position as a junior associate at Greer & Associates 8 weeks after the settlement, and I took it because I am very good at what I do and because it turns out that a woman who has spent a decade quietly protecting people who didn't deserve it develops a specific and formidable skill set when she finally decides to use it on her own behalf. I have an apartment with windows that face east so the morning light comes in clean and early. I have 2 plants that are alive. I have friends who ask how I am and wait for the actual answer. I do not have a family in the traditional sense anymore. What I have instead is something I spent 29 years not knowing was available to me. I have peace. If you are reading this and you recognize yourself in it, if you are the one who shows up and fixes it and absorbs it and stays quiet about what it costs you, I want to say this as plainly as I know how. The people who benefit from your silence will always describe your limits as betrayal. They will call your documentation vindictive. They will call your clarity cruelty. They will stand on the porch in their goodwill coats and tell you that you have destroyed something. What you have actually done is stopped rebuilding it for them. That is not destruction. That is the first honest thing you have done for yourself in years. And you are allowed to do it.